So we finally managed to escape Tehachapi. We're walking this section here, right next to the freeway. It's mostly concrete. It's definitely my favorite section so far.
This is so pretty up here. I just want to share this view with you all. This is our first day coming out of Tehachapi. We've come about 5 miles, and you can see how much elevation we gained. We started way down there at the highway, so we've come up pretty high, and it's not going to stop. You can see the trail coming up along here and then up along that hillside. So I think our campsite that we're gonna do for tonight is on the other side of that hill, but it may be a little farther. Not quite sure. It's a little deceiving with how many switchbacks we have. So anyways, it's beautiful up here. We have tons of flowers. My feet so far are sore, but they do not hurt really any more than before. They feel much better than before we went into town, and they don't feel like they're getting worse, so I think that's a good sign. I'm just trying to take it easy on them, so whenever I rest, I'm just elevating them, taking my shoes off. So hopefully they will continue to feel better. That's what I'm really hoping for. We have kind of a decent water carry right now. We have 16 miles to water, and plus 6 days of food. And when I put on my pack this morning, it was a little too heavy for me. I was actually hurting my knees, so Spam took some of my extra weight. He seems okay with that so far. Yikes. But yeah, right now I'm doing okay. Here's the view on the other side here. Looking back towards Tehachapi, somewhere there. Woo. It's pretty windy up here. Looks like we just have a nice little ridge walk here before going all the way up. Alright, so I just came across these tracks, which I believe are bear tracks. There's 2 paws there. You can see the claw marks as well right here. The thing that makes me a little nervous about this is that this was all mud yesterday, so this is still a pretty fresh print. You can see that the center of the track hasn't dried yet, so this is probably in the last day or so. So makes me a little nervous because the trees here are all tiny. These are not trees that you could hang your food in. We do have Ursack bags, but they're mostly just chew-proof for smaller animals. So it makes me a little nervous. Our sun here is going down. I'm almost to camp. The trail for the last 3 miles has been this like off-roading trail here. So the bummer is that it's been kind of slanted and my foot is not liking it. Downhill and slanted, not a good combo. So when I get to camp, I'm gonna massage it and hopefully that'll help before bed, and then probably just have a slow start in the morning to let it warm up. So I'm definitely a little bit worried about that. The sunset is gorgeous. So I'm definitely enjoying that, even though I'm in a little bit of pain. Also, a ways back, Spam caught up with me and his shoulder was hurting from taking my extra weight. So I took that back. But he's now behind me because he's taking it slow. So we're just kind of hobbling along here at this point. And then we'll have a big dinner and rest up. So apparently I just walked over this without even seeing it. I'm not going that close. There's a little guy. Yeah. Did I really step over it?
Yeah.
Did you see it?
started moving after he stepped over it, so I was like, oh crap.
You think it was just napping?
Yeah.
Or did it go in the path after I stepped
No,
there?
it was there.
I didn't even see it.
Just thought it was a stick or something.
Oh boy. That's kind of freaky. Yeah. We have now walked a total of, dun, 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 600 miles!
So we found this stone here, and it kind of reminds me of that Ernest Hemingway story, where it's like, oh, how many words do you need to write the saddest story? And he said, 2 babies' shoes, never use, located in a classified section. I feel like this rock's kind of similar.
So today is day 56, and as you can tell, it is very wet. I'm so glad we did not follow the advice of Facebookers who said it never rains on the PCT. I never used my raincoat once. You don't need rain gear, you just need wind gear, because as you can tell, it is very wet. Our tent did get wet last night, and our friend's lifeguard and Gummy Bear's tent got wetted out. So we are now hiking. We're about to be hiking in the rain. You can see Spam coming up there. It looks pretty miserable. It's supposed to be like a 90 to 100% chance of rain all day, and then mixed rain and snow this afternoon / evening. So we'll see what happens with that. In the meantime, we're just going to try to stay dry, and that's it. That's it. We're just wet.
I mean, that's part of through hiking, really, right? Like, you just take what the world gives you and say, time to walk. So I'm filming this in a little break in the hail, although, as you can probably tell, it's still hailing. You might ask yourself, are you glad you're doing the PCT? Don't you wish you were at home with like a nice cup of hot cocoa? And my answer is no, this is way better. Mother Nature can just see my middle finger, it's fine. Hey Coog.
Hey.
I heard you had your worst experience on the trail. Tell me about it.
Yes, so pooping in a hailstorm and watching your pants fill up with ice that you're trying to put on is awful.
What was happening to your legs again?
Oh, also my legs are so dirty that the hail was like melting on them and making them muddy.
So, you know, it's been hailing, and then I said those kind of fighting words about Mother Nature. And, well, we've run across a part of the trail that's a little bit more submerged than average. But it looks like there's a log there. Let's see if cougar bait can traverse this. Just remember, don't fall. Well, there we go.
So we are just getting ready to go this morning. We've actually spent about 3 hours at camp this morning because there's some awesome trail magic behind us. We had pancakes and bacon and eggs. It's actually 2 different groups of trail angels that happen to have the same idea. Also, mimosas. That was amazing. So just been hanging out there. Unfortunately, lifeguard now has a shin splint issue, so
I don't know that we've mentioned her before.
we might have called her Chief before. But she and Gummy Bear are going to either stay here one more day or try to get into town to rest up her shin splints, and then we're going to meet them in town. So that was our awesome trail magic. It was amazing. Again, pancakes, delicious, fruit, muffins, mimosas, all good things. And there's also a water cache over here too, so we're gonna be good to go. And then we're just gonna try to hike into a cabin because there's a storm watch for tonight through basically Monday. So at least tonight we'll have a shelter, and then we'll hike 8 miles essentially to be able to get to the road into town tomorrow morning. So that's the plan.
And now we see the most beautiful of sights. So many butterflies gathered together
So today is turning out to be so beautiful. It's really strange to think that there's a storm warning for later today and that we might be in the snow tonight. So yeah, just kind of a strange day. Also, see if you can see it behind me. We have our first glimpse of the Sierras back there. I don't know if they're really showing up, but there is lots of snow ahead. So we'll see how things go this afternoon. But it's just an easy 9.3 miles at this point downhill to the cabin. So I'm already a quarter of the way through the day and feeling good. All right, so here's a little better view. Oop, sorry. All right, so here's a little better view of the Sierras for you. Just gonna zoom in here so you can see all the snow. That's what we're headed towards. We'll see. The more and more we talk to other hikers, the more we're thinking about possibly flipping up and coming back to do the Sierras. Yeah, I don't know. My preference is to go through, but a lot of the resupply routes that we would need to depend on are not open yet. And due to the fact that there's been 3 snowstorms in the last 3 weeks, that might not be a reliable source. So we'll see how it goes, but there they are. This little horny toad is so cute. Just a fat, happy little guy soaking up the sun. Alright, I'm kind of thinking those clouds out there are the storm that we're worried about. So I'm really glad that I'm only 2 miles from camp and that we'll be staying in a cabin. Hopefully there's not too many other people there. So far today, I've only been passed, I think, by one guy. But there were potentially other people ahead of us, in between us in the cabin, who might be there tonight. So we'll see. But again, I think that's the storm. And this is more like what this afternoon has looked like. So it's moving in. Alright, so I made it to the cabin, and unfortunately I beat Spam, and I don't know how long he is behind me. He has our tent, and it's raining. So let me hang out in here. It is fairly creepy. It smells good though because of this fireplace. The floor is questionable. It looks like it could give out, but it is what it is. Yeah, there's some interesting things in here. Some empty Jameson, vodka, parking for Dutch only. Yep, it's an interesting place. We may choose to sleep in our tent, but I'll wait until Spam gets here so we can decide. This is definitely a good option if the winter storm is actually bad. We're getting ready to leave the cabin this morning, where we stayed last night, and it's snowing. It's a little bit hard to see. The flakes are kind of small and slanted. It's so beautiful, but it's so wet and cold. And this is our little cabin where we slept last night.
It's cold.
It's cold. It's very cold, but it kept us warm, except for the fact that there was little mice chewing and running around in this paper down here all night long, so we didn't actually sleep very well. But it was nice to have the shelter. And now we just have 8 miles to get into town, where we have a nice warm hotel room waiting for us. I'm ready for that. This looks miserable, but beautiful, but miserable.
Hey, Coog!
Yeah.
What's the weather like?
It's windy!
So we camped on top of this ridge, and it might be a little windy this morning.
It's very windy.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is the wind advisory peaks in at 10. It's 7. this isn't even as bad as it's gonna get. So we're gonna pack up our tent and leave.
Alright, so today is day 61. Yesterday we left town and got back on the trail at Walker Pass. And then part way up the trail, I discovered that her knee was hurting really bad. And then Spam's stomach was also upset. So we just set up camp like 2 miles in. And we're actually headed back to town now so that hopefully we can get Lifeguard some shoes, some new shoes. Her shoes are all collapsed, so we think that's what's hurting her. And then we'll rest up in town. So it'll be a couple more days before we're back on trail probably. But in the meantime, this is a very cold, very windy hike this morning. And there's
It's only like 2 miles.
yeah, it's only 2 miles. So I'm actually gonna put my phone down because my head is freezing off.
You need some moisturizing cream for your neck there. It's really wrinkly.
Alright, so we just hit the final straw with Spam's backpack here. The rod that holds the shape of the backpack on the back snapped on one side. So luckily our friends had this repair pool for their tent that they let us borrow, but this is the second time we've dealt with
Yeah, this is the
Z-packs
second
breaking.
pack.
Yeah, so that's it, final straw. This will
Yeah.
work for now, and then when we get to Kenny Meadows, it's time for a new
I
backpack.
have a lot of 4-letter words that I'm thinking about Z-packs right now.
Oh no.
I don't think any of them are able to be said on YouTube.
So we are back on the trail again from Walker Pass. As you can see, here's all the switchbacks to get up and over, and that's where our campsite was the other day when we decided to turn back to let Lifeguard heal up her knee. So we're on our way again and headed towards Kenny Meadows. Woo! Woohoo!
Good job.
Nice work, you guys.
It was mainly big. I didn't. Yeah, it was not that much.